Flexibility is the key. And when to start.
All right, we are live and ready, Mr. Acting President.
All right, welcome everyone to the October 27th Shelbyville Plan Commission meeting with acting President Joe Lux filling in for Mr. Cassidy and Mr. Nolly. Mr. Secretary, can you call the roll?
Surely. Mr. Claxton. Miss Means Davis. Mr. Garrett III.
Here.
Mr. Schuler. Mr. Lux.
Here.
Miss Soviar.
Here.
And Mr. Comstock.
Here.
All right, let it be also noted that that Carter Hall did send a notice that he would not be attending tonight.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. So next item of business is the approval of the September 22nd, 2025 meeting minutes. Barring going through that, we'll take a motion to approve.
So moved. Or, I don't know, is that not the right term? Sorry.
I think it's close enough. I'll second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? So move for approval of the meeting minutes. All right, next item of business is old business, and there is no old business, so we're going to move on to new business, which is PC 2025-12, the Unified Development Ordinance Amendments. Mr. Secretary, who does the director present that information?
Yeah, I'll jump in here.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Adam Rude. Please.
Adam, yes, Adam Rude, Planning Director. And thank you guys. I am at conference right now out of town. So, but trying to keep this project moving forward. Let me share my screen. Okay. You guys see that? Bright green screen?
Yes.
Okay. Go. And feel free to unmute and interrupt me and ask any questions here. I'm going to try to walk through all these amendments and then we can have a discussion. As Mr. Lux had said, this is PC 2025-12. This is a set of UDO amendments we've been working on for well over a year now, and hopefully bringing them to close so we can get those adopted and incorporated in UDO. So the agenda for today, I have the wrong date on there, but the agenda for today, I'm going to talk at a high level about what the current BN district looks like, kind of what we're working with today. I'm going to highlight for the public watching at home some of the previous steps we've taken. Then I'll jump into the proposed amendments specifically for the BN district, then the proposed amendments for the other sections of the ordinance, and then kind of next steps in the overall approval process. So the current BN district, I pulled these quotes from the intent section of Article 2. So in our ordinance today, this is how the ordinance outlines the intent of this district. So I'll just read them here. The BN district is intended to provide goods and services to neighborhoods and residential developments. It shall protect this, the quote is that the city shall protect this district from non-neighborhood serving commercial uses that would create land use conflicts. And then this district should be integrated into the community's neighborhoods at significant street intersections. So this is our commercial district. And you can see on the scale here from least intense to most intense. This is our least intense commercial zoning district. So just like it said on the last slide, this is intended to be located in our residential areas. It's intended that the uses and the businesses in these districts serve those residential areas. And we'll talk through in just a second kind of where where those districts are in our community right now. So this is a chart we pulled from a report that the staff had prepared last year. So you can see of the entire approximately 10,700 square feet 10,700 acres of area in the city's planning jurisdiction. About 1,500 or so are commercially zoned, but only about 41.7 acres of that are BN district. So about 15% of the city's jurisdiction is commercial, but about 0.4, 0.5% is that BN district. But that BN district is integrated into our residential area. So it sometimes has the most impact on our residents because it is right next door. Some locations there, again, there's 41 acres, so this is not a comprehensive list here, but these are just to give some context of where this district exists and kind of the different areas in our community. So the 5 Points area is a zone business neighborhood. The two entrances to Twin Lakes, the entrance to Bear Run next to the retirement home, whose name is blanking me right now, but near the Walkerville Bridge, there's some pockets of business neighborhood in Walkerville, and then on the southwest side of the bridge. And then there's numerous scattered pockets throughout older neighborhoods of our community where you see one-off or two lots that might be a commercial node in a neighborhood. They normally have that BN classification. So some previous steps, we are very familiar here, but for the public, spring and summer of last year, the DG Market, BZA, and Plan Commission cases kind of kicked off this discussion with both the BZA and Plan Commission, raising some concerns, hearing from the public what some of those concerns are. We used the leverage we had at the time to kind of implement some conditions on that specific case, but that kicked off the whole discussion of looking at this district. Throughout the summer last year, Maria actually had drafted a report that analyzed kind of the current state of the BN district. So that's where I pulled some of the numbers and some of the location data, but just kind of taking an account of what currently exists on the ground today, what that district looks like, what's permitted, what the standards are, and where it exists in town. That led the Plan Commission to establish a smaller subcommittee comprised of both Plan Commission and BZA members that focused on revising those, that BN district. With Maria leaving and then me going on paternity leave, there was a big gap there where the project kind of paused for a little bit. But once we got Mike in and we got moving again on a lot of things and got caught up, late this summer, we picked up and that committee started meeting again. And then last month, the committee met for the last time to see those final recommendations and to finalize the amendments that you have before you, which then kicked off the formal adoption process. So I'm going to walk through first the proposed amendments specifically for the BN district, because that's the bulk of this. So currently the architectural standards for the BN district, it's governed by the same standards as our residential R1 and R2 districts. These are very minimal and they mostly just regulate the roof slope and overhangs, and they have no regulations on building materials or facades or roof materials or those kinds of things. So the proposed change would simply be shifting the BN district so that it was governed by the same standards as all of our other business and institutional districts. Basically just not reinventing the wheel, saying the standards that are good enough for our business central or business general district are good enough here, and we'll just apply them the same. So this regulates building materials and roof lines and facades and projections and recesses and storefronts and all of those different things. Commercial standards. So some of these changes were based off of the DG Market case. Some were just general standards that, or general amendments that came up during the committee's discussion. So currently the standards require public and private sidewalks for these commercial developments. It sets some requirements for customer entrances, where they have to be located, how they have to be connected. It also has requirements for screening of outdoor storage, trash collection, loading areas, etc. In the pre-meeting, we had the discussion about this outdoor merchandise and where it's located and how it interferes with sidewalks. So we have the language on the books now. maybe not always enforced the best way, but we have that. So the proposed changes would maintain all of that language as it is today, but then add a requirement or add some language that requires essentially if the city's bicycle and pedestrian master plan or some other document adopted by the plan commission calls for trails or some kind of increased bike and ped infrastructure. Right now, we can't require that to be installed. We can only require sidewalks to be installed. For the most part, anytime that we have asked a developer to install a trail instead of a sidewalk in these areas, they've always complied, but we don't have the ability to require that. So that would just change that language so we can require that bike and ped infrastructure instead of just a standard sidewalk. And then the second piece, it would add the ability to pay a fee in lieu of installing public sidewalks in rare situations. So it would set 4 or 5 very specific criteria that if the city engineer determines have been met, the developer could pay a fee for the cost of the sidewalk they're not installing. And that would be put into a non-reverting sidewalk fund. So at some point, if it makes sense to install that remaining piece of sidewalk, the city would have the funds to do that. The lighting standards, this is another one that a lot of changes were based off the DG market case. So right now, the light trespass requirements are all measured in lux, which is not the industry standard for measuring light on a property. We learned that through this process, and we've heard that from some developers. Currently, the maximum light pole height, it's only regulated in parking lots. So any other freestanding lights on the property currently are not regulated. And then in the BN district, the maximum height right now is 20 foot. And then something else we discovered or came across during this process is a lot of our subdivision lighting standards. So for new commercial and residential subdivisions, there's little to no guidance on where light placement should happen and how much light coverage is needed and height and location and all of that. So proposed standards, we have in the proposed language, we are measuring light trespass both in lux and foot candles. Foot candles is that industry standard, so we've shown both those numbers. The maximum pole height, we've consolidated it, and we are now regulating it site-wide instead of just in the parking lots and just in some parts of the parking lots in some aspects. And then in this BN district, we have set the maximum height to 5 foot, which on the DG market case resulted in lighted bollards instead of tall parking lot lights, just to pull that light down even further. And then the subdivision lighting standards, those have been mostly just replaced with kind of more thorough standards that outline placement requirements and add some clarity on who actually owns the lights once they're installed, because that was not in the ordinance before. The parking standards, this is another one, not specifically for DG market, but came up with the discussion with the committee. So the current standards, they set minimum parking requirements based off land uses. There's essentially no administrative reduction in those minimum requirements, and there's no requirement for bike racks. We only have a statement right now that encourages the installation of them. So the proposed standards would leave the minimum parking requirements formulas exactly the same, but it would add language that in our more established areas and in our older parts of the community, there would be an avenue for some administrative relief to reduce those parking standards down. Again, in those older areas where things are more walkable or there might not physically be the area for all of the parking requirements, that could be reduced down. And when that parking is reduced, when any waiver is granted, additional parking or bike racks would be required. And then along those same lines, bike racks would now be required on all new commercial, institutional, and industrial developments. Kind of the minimum across the board is 4 bike parking spaces, which would be 2 racks, a bike mounted on either side of it. But depending on the size, as projects get bigger and larger and more users, that number could increase. And there's formulas in the ordinance for that. And then, oh, I already skipped ahead here. The number of bike racks would be based off land uses then. So there's that table in the ordinance. And then we also have added some specific design requirements, spacing, technical specifications for bike racks, just to ensure that when they're installed, the proper spacing is being provided so they aren't blocking sidewalks or they're not piled on top of each other and they can actually be used. And then in this business neighborhood district, we also went through, looked at all of the permitted and special exception uses. So you all know this, but for the public that are following along at home, in all of our districts, we have a list of permitted uses. That is uses that are allowed by right. There's no special approval needed. If you're doing construction, you might need some permits and inspections, but you could start a business or start that use whenever you want in those zoning districts. The special exception uses are uses that are typically okay, but they require a case-by-case review and approval by the Board of Zoning Appeals. And then everything outside of these two lists are just prohibited. They're not allowed. You can't do it. You have to go through some kind of rezone or something else. So we took a look at all of these. And I'm not going to read this whole list to you, but the bold underline uses are the new ones. In discussing all of this, we wanted to enable some more uses and allow development in these business neighborhood districts, but make sure that it was uses and types of development that would be appropriate. So those new uses would be office uses, community center, library, and medical or health clinics. So those would all be moved or added to the permitted uses table. And then the changes on the special exception use, 3 of those uses, the office use, the community center, and the medical and health center previously were special exception uses. Because we moved them over, we're removing them here. And then a use that used to be prohibited outright was bank or financial institution. So we kind of thought that in some instances, this might be an appropriate use and it would be worthwhile to at least allow an avenue to consider that. So that covers all of the amendments to the BN district specifically. As we go through these UDO amendment processes, we try to lump in some smaller other amendments. We keep kind of a running list, and when we go through this very formal process, we try to take advantage of that time and make some of these smaller corrections and industry best practices that we can include. So we have a few. So the big hot topic right now across the state and the country is data centers. The kind of planning industry best practice and the guidance we've been hearing conferences and whatnot is to make sure that the terms related to data centers and those things are well defined and it's clear where they're permitted and where they're not, just to kind of clarify all of that and safeguard the city and from any unnecessary lawsuits. So currently the UDO does not provide a definition for data centers. A lot of our definitions are 20 plus years old, some are even older than that, and we do not define what a data center is. The closest thing that we do define is a data processing center. And the way it's defined, and I believe it's in your memos, but it's basically defined as a facility where people sit down at computers and enter data into a computer system. So that is not what we think of data centers today, and that's not an appropriate use to try to base future development off of. So the best practice is just to clean this up, add data center and a proper definition to the ordinance, and then add where it's permitted. So we've done that in the proposed ordinance by adding that definition and then adding it as a permitted use in our light industrial and general industrial districts. The other 2 amendments that we would be proposing is a residential sidewalk exemption. So similar to the commercial sidewalk exemption we talked about before, when certain conditions are being met on a new primary structure, on a residential property, it would allow the delay of the installation of the sidewalk. This mostly would happen when there are physical conflicts, whether that be drainage or utility related, and there are not adjoining sidewalks on the adjoining properties to connect to. In this instance, when this is waived, a written commitment would be recorded against the property, cross-referencing the deed so that not only the current property owner, but any future property owner would know of that commitment, and they wouldn't be surprised in the future. Kind of along similar lines, some changes or reductions in the residential parking requirements in older neighborhoods. So right now, our R1 district, our single-family residential, is used both in kind of our older historic parts of our community and our older historic parts of our community and kind of newer subdivisions that are coming in. So it's got some provisions that allow some flexibility, but one area that isn't very flexible right now is the requirement for 2 off-street parking spots and 1 garage parking spot. In new subdivisions, new construction, that's easy to meet and that's perfectly fine, and that's a requirement that we enforce. But in our older areas, especially infill lots that we are trying to get residential development on and try to get back on the tax roll, that can be very difficult, if not impossible, to meet some of those requirements. So this would allow a reduction on those older lots in older neighborhoods, either reducing the off-street parking and or the garage parking requirements there. Okay. Before I jump into next steps, are there questions I can answer or any thoughts? I'm not hearing anything, so.
No,
Oh, there we go.
I
Okay.
was looking to Mike for recommendation, but it sounds like good summary. I would say the next move I was going to do was open up to the board for questions. Okay, so thank you, Adam. Very good summary of all of that. We'll open it to the board for questions. So we'll start with Mr. Claxton.
No questions.
Ms. Means Davis,
No questions.
Mr. Garrett,
No questions.
Mr. Schuler,
No questions.
Ms. Sylviar.
Yeah, skip right by me because
The only request, I guess, not a question, we had one earlier, or a couple of them. Adam, would it make sense to just kind of summarize what we had talked about, the questions we had in our pre-meeting for the public or not?
Yeah, and I'll try to, someone correct me if I miss any of them. So in our pre-meeting, we had a short discussion on some of this. Ms. Sylviar had brought up a question about Airbnbs, VRBOs, short-term rental, and if that was something we should look at or kind of how to address some of that. The short answer is we were kind of, as a staff, we were waiting on the county to get through that process, which they recently have, so that we could learn from there, let them figure it out and kind of learn from that, which we have added that short-term rental VRBO side of things to our ever-growing list of UDO amendments that should take place. So maybe it'll be a 2026 item. Ms. Means Davis had asked some questions about making sure that the property owners of these residential properties were made aware of any requirement for future sidewalks. The aspect that requires a written commitment to be recorded against the property, that would notify them at closing and during any title search. Assuming their realtor explains to them what some of those documents mean. So that's kind of the only potential point of failure there, is if that's not, it's disclosed to them, but if it's not explained to them. So kind of addressing that. And then I'm trying to think what else. Oh, Mr. Lux had brought up a question about kind of outdoor merchandise storage, and if the ordinance does anything or if that should be incorporated. Specifically, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but specifically the ice machines and propane tanks and that kind of stuff that takes up half of a sidewalk in front of gas stations a lot of times. So in our pre-meeting, we had the discussion that for a while we have had on the books requirements to limit that outdoor merchandising and to where it exists to maintain a minimum sidewalk, a passable sidewalk width, more than what ADA or something would require. We have taken some steps to review that better at tech review and actually start enforcing that and making sure it's something that's thought of on the front end rather than in a reactive enforcement piece. But that language is in there. It hasn't always been enforced well, I'll say. I think I might have covered everything.
You did. Thank you.
Thanks.
Mr. Comstock?
Yeah, Adam, I got two questions for you. One of them, it pertains directly to me in my office. In lieu of fee, I notice here that you say it shall be $25 per square foot. Is this something that we can address yearly? As we know, everything's getting expensive, seems like by the day. We're sitting here talking about an ordinance and needing to update it. I just see that price continue to grow. And what flexibility do we have that, let's say in a couple of years, the price per square foot is now $35? Are we continuing coming back to this to constantly update it?
That's a good point. We had just taken this number from another community, I think Bargersville maybe. I think we could probably, assuming the plan commission is comfortable with this, in a recommendation this evening, we could probably include changing that to maybe an estimate approved by, or a construction cost approved by the city engineer. Instead of a $25 per square foot, it could just be something that your office approves. So then it can fluctuate with cost over time.
I just don't want us to have to come back here every year to update by $2, $3, $5 every year. Just to kind of keep up, because eventually we'll always be chasing it, unfortunately.
Or if we forget, we'll be collecting.
And then 5 years from
15
now, and concrete's on.
15 years where
Do we approve,
we're collecting pennies or
do we
something.
approve other fees now, or that's all done administratively, right? Other fees that we have?
Are you talking about just our basic filing fees and that type of thing, or?
Even like something like this,
Yeah,
those don't usually come to us anyway, right?
Well, since this one is specifically noted verbatim, this fee shall be $25 per square foot and a final determination shall be made by the city engineer. Because it specifically says that shall be 25 feet per square feet, that's the part where, yes, if we can take that out, provide some flexibility, like Adam say, maybe add a second point in there, or a final amount determined by the city engineer, or something like
or
that.
structure it similar to our park impact fees where it increases a percentage based every year.
Well, and we could probably borrow language. So somewhere or elsewhere in the ordinance, Tyler's office is responsible for approving cost estimates on construction costs for surety bonding. It's something you guys never really see, but it's part of the ordinance and it's something he already does. So maybe we could borrow some language from that and basically just use the same mechanism for this.
Whatever flexibility we can build into it now, so we're not constantly chasing it. I just think that'd be good.
I think that's smart.
The other question I have is, so I remember there being a very intelligent and passionate remonstrator against Dollar General. And I'll plead the fifth on that. In these uses, one of the things that this individual noted was the traffic, the large semi-traffic with respect to being within the neighborhoods. I noticed that it said retail 1. Does that limit any of that larger vehicle traffic?
No, so those retail land uses we didn't change because I'll try to answer it this way. Retail type one, the limitations are on the square footage of the facility, the hours of operation, and I think there actually might be a total trips limitation, but it's in the thousands. So that in that instance, and in most instances, that probably wouldn't be an actual limiting factor. We left retail type two as a special exception for the same reason. I mean, if someone wanted to do a larger facility or something that operated outside of those hours, it would just require that additional hearing and that additional, point of leverage or that additional review by the BZA. So there's not, there's kind of, and I don't have the UDO in front of me, but there is a kind of a trip, a daily trip limit, but I do know it's in the thousands. So there's basically not really a limitation on that right now.
And I think it's something that this point moving forward, when we have these districts, we need to look at the overall design that it can handle something like that, anticipating that it might always happen. For instance, the Twin Lakes, the biggest one that was pointed out was the entrance literally could not accept a semi. So things like that, if we can get ahead of it and be ready for that so that we are creating a friendly entrance if needed, so that additional entrances wouldn't be needed, or however, maybe the semis aren't going where they shouldn't be. So I think it's something we can get ahead of, but just something I thought I would ask because, again, I think whenever you mix that large semi-traffic into a neighborhood, that's where the big conflicts and safety concerns were. So just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, no, good question. And just for reference, this is a table from Article 11 of the ordinance, but our three retail types are listed here, type 1, 2, 3. These are those differentiating factors of them. So type 1 is what this top line here is what would be permitted by right in that business neighborhood. Type 2 is what DG Market fell under because they were over this 10,000 square foot. And I believe they were maybe they had different operating hours from that. But they fell into that. So that's still how it would be set today. Type 1 would be permitted by right, and then type 2 would be a special exception, and then type 3 is just not permitted at all.
Is that it? All right. And we had a late addition. Glad you're here safely.
Yeah.
Mr. Nolly,
Just
do you
get
have
off
any
my tire,
questions?
so no big deal. So I probably will abstain from voting since I missed most of the discussion, just to be appropriate, but I do have a question, and you may have touched on it already. So speaking of DG, if it was, what, 10,000 or less, there would have been no discussion. Does any of this address that to where we can enforce things? You know where I'm going with this question? Okay.
Yeah, it wouldn't change that. It wouldn't change any of those that 10,000 square foot threshold. That would remain unchanged. But all of the major concerns from the DG Market case and most of the conditions that were imposed on that have been incorporated as requirements going forward. So architectural standards, landscaping, lighting, all of those aspects that.
Every hoop we made them jump through, they won't have to jump through. Okay.
Yes, it would just be a requirement and we wouldn't have to,
Okay.
add it as a condition or something.
I'm taking it as all the special requirements that we opposed on them, that is now the minimum. Is that what I'm getting at, Adam?
Yeah, and honest.
Starting point. So.
Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, in those committee meetings, when we started some of those discussions, we literally laid out a table of, this is the current standard, this is what DG Market had to do, this is what we're proposing. And a lot of times it was just carrying over that DG Market condition. Yeah.
I'm glad to see we respond to our deficits when we find them, like we did with Poet and others, so thank you to everybody working on it.
All right. And I have one question is, Adam, how does food truck regulations fall into, is this part of this? I've seen some temporary food trucks set up. Is there any regulations Is there any?
There's a little bit. So the zoning ordinance has a little bit of, we allow some temporary structures and temporary uses in some of our commercial district, in most of our commercial districts. Outside of that, city council has, peddlers permits, trying to think of they have a different set of standards that the police department enforces.
Okay.
So, yeah, the zoning ordinance touches it a little bit, but not all of it.
But I heard that's covered under other requirements by the city.
Yes.
Doesn't need to be covered here. Okay.
Yeah, because if you, I think maybe talk about it in here one, the Cholula taco stand at the Shell station. When you go to Google Maps, it's a permanent location on Google Maps. Yeah, it's always there. So I don't know.
Well, I would think a business neighborhood business like DG Market could have a temporary food truck there.
We'll define temporary because this one's been up there for.
Well,
a couple years.
that's what I wrote down was time limitations. And that's where I would, but if the police cover that in some other, then that's
Yeah.
fine. Or the health department, I don't know, but either one. It's probably not us.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so we'll close this to the board and we'll open it up to questions from the public. So if anybody from the public would like to step forward and ask a question or make a comment, this is your time.
I think Mr. Bradwood requires at least 2 questions, doesn't he?
To get an A, I think
Otherwise,
there
it's
is
a
a
D
requirement
minus
to be
F
part of the
plus.
meeting minutes.
Okay. We'll send a
All
record-
right.
We'll send a video to him.
No questions for the public. We'll open it back up for board questions. Any further questions from the board?
I will add, sorry, I'll add, and it says it in our memo, assuming the board is forwarding a favorable recommendation. I forgot when I was drafting this ordinance to add 1 or 2 paragraphs specifically about the parking reduction in commercial businesses. It's noted in your memo, and it was just not copied and pasted over when I was drafting some of this stuff. So, and we found it after it was introduced at council. So procedurally, if we make a favorable recommendation, we would just add that we are proposing, and I think I put the language in your memo, but we would be proposing that. Okay, yes. So it's not something we were trying to sneak in. I just forgot it when I was drafting some of this stuff and we found it a little bit too late. So now we get to correct that for me.
And our motion here is to forward it to city council?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So this evening, we are holding the public hearing and making a recommendation, and then city council will, based off the recommendation, hopefully approve this at their next meeting.
All right, so we'll open it up to the board for a motion on PC 25-12 Unified Development Ordinance Amendments.
I move that we forward the favorable recommendation to the council. The proposed amendment includes section 5.52-A-1-D, reduced parking requirements in established areas.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to approve and a second. If everyone could complete their ballots and pass them over to me.
All right, in the case PC 2025-12 UDO amendments, Mr. Comstock votes yes, Ms. Sobiar votes yes, Mr. Lux votes yes, Mr. Garrett votes yes, Mr. Schuler votes yes, Mr. Claxton votes yes, and Ms. Means Davis votes yes, and Mr. Nolly abstains. So the motion favorable recommendation is forwarded back to
All right.
city council.
Good deal. That's great to hear. Thank you. So that will close new business. We'll open it up for discussion. And Adam or Mike, you have comments on November, December meeting dates?
Yes, I had thrown that on the agenda because I believe, let me pull the calendar. I think the fourth Mondays of the next 2 months get really close to holidays. So I was looking for some feedback if we want to keep those meeting dates or if we want to move them. And we do not have to make a decision on what we're moving them to right now. We can do a follow-up email, but that would be November 24th and December 22nd are the fourth Mondays
So
of those months.
24th is the Monday of Thanksgiving, the week of Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Second, obviously, is the
22nd.
Monday of Christmas week as well.
And I
But
would
kids are
say
in
that,
school, aren't they? On the November 24th, aren't kids still in school?
yeah, both
The
days.
November wouldn't bother me, but
No.
I wouldn't mind moving to December.
I think it depends on the number of petitions that are involved. If there's 17 petitions pending, and I doubt that, then I'd say we have to have 2 meetings. If there's one, then
Well, wait, I
let's
mean-
have 1 meeting and move it in December, or it depends on,
I don't think we can do that because we couldn't hold
As,
something up.
as it stands right now, it looks like we will have 2 petitions. I assume tech review will go well tomorrow, so we'll have 2 petitions for November. I do not know of anything right now that is forecasted for December.
that's fair, so.
I'm fine with leaving that November date. What about you guys?
Yeah, I'm okay with the November.
But if we have a December, if we do have something December, I wouldn't mind moving it back a week. You guys, just in case people want to take off that week.
We can always just discuss it at November's
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
Because we know we have November.
Yeah, we have a better
Yeah.
idea of our schedules.
Yeah, so if we're okay with that November date, yeah, we'll go ahead and have that meeting. And then, yeah, to Tyler's point, if it looks like we're gonna have a December meeting, we can figure out then. Because I don't want to be here on December, what,
You're
22nd?
here tonight, so what's the difference?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you might get another Zoom Adam joining a meeting, so.
All right.
Oh, that's me. That's usually me.
All right, is that it for discussion?
That is it.
Have the students.
Oh,
We have to have.
Students, it's tradition. You have to come up, state your name,
Students,
and what else do you have to do? What was the other thing?
come
One
up
thing
to
you
the
learned?
podium, please.
Tell what you want to do when you grow up.
yeah.
Like,
Yeah, there you
going
go.
to
Just basically
college or-
identify
You
yourself.
just identify yourself.
And why
so
you're
your
here.
Name will be in the meeting minutes.
Otherwise you get no credit.
No.
And this is public record, so.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
my.
Well, get his name down for an alternate.
Yeah, future member.
Thank you for coming.
Did he not count the first one or?
Is this extra credit?
No, it's required. We do one for, each quarter for government.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so you get it done early. I like that.
Thank you very much.
This is actually a short meeting for us.
Really.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, members of the public and students.
I do have a quick question, just as we talked about our UDO that we said to go on, the question about Tyler brought up about changing the language to meet market standards versus 25, will we be able to add that in, or do we need to, like, could council make that amendment if we need to?
I completely forgot about that. Council can make that amendment.
Motion. Yeah, that's me.
Do you want me to, like,
Should we
when
redo that?
when we bring it to council, could I make the motion then and add that exception in? Would that be helpful?
I don't know if legally they can, or we have to send it over with the language, do you know? Adam, do you know?
Well, so,
You could just redo it.
well, Betsy could so the council is going to have to actually adopt an amendment, like a written amendment with the exact language. We can get that language solidified to actually include that change for the sidewalk pricing. And then when Betsy or someone else on the council makes that motion, it can just include all that. So long answer, but we do not have to clean that up right now because as a staff, we can just clean that up between now and then. Because I think
I'm
we've
not
got about a
fired.
week and a
I'm not
half.
Fired yet, Adam?
No, not yet.
Yeah, don't let Gary do
I
it.
kind of forgot to.
Yeah, it sounds like it can be covered. So good point.
Yeah, very
Good point. Thank you.
We're all sitting here. and
All
listening.
right, if nothing else, then I'll accept a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
All right. Motion to adjourn, called it. Closed.
Thank you all. See ya.